Hello and welcome to my channel. I feel like when you're homeschooling, because I know that when we were homeschooling, we had one child that we homeschooled because she was behind in her reading, and she went up 5 levels while she was homeschooling. And while she was at school, we put her back in school because it was only to homeschool her to get her caught up on her reading. They did the regular schooling with her plus an extra reading class, and then she only went up 2 reading levels. So I felt like if she hadn't done the extra reading class, she would have only went up 1 reading level, whereas she went up 5 at home. And then my oldest son, he was in the 6th grade, and he scored. I had to take the standardized test, and he scored 3 above 12th grade scores in the 6th grade. And then they didn't want him tested anymore, and they didn't want copies of his tests or anything, because the state that we were living in, the public schools got they were like the lowest, one of the lowest scores as far as public schools. So I feel like when you're homeschooling, if you're homeschooling your students between 3 and 5 hours a day, you have extra time to teach them other things. And you wonder, even if you teach them these other things 1 day a week, some of the things they took out of the schools that they used to teach that were just wonderful. And sometimes people think, well, what else can I teach my students that would help them be more creative? And because, you could be giving them workbooks where they're learning and working at their own pace, and they could just be soaring through this stuff. And then you're like, well, I need other things for them to do because they're learning so fast, and I want them to have fun while they're learning. So I thought I would go and look for some elective type things that they used to have in schools that they may not have anymore. So I thought maybe some people might be interested in things like that. So I'm just going to click on some links that I have open for you to see. And this is some of the reasons right here on this page as to why they had these subjects that you can see where I found it in the upper left hand corner, but it shows some of the reasons for the classes like that, because they wanted at the time to expose pupils at the basic education level to a wide range of practical activities in order to make them familiar with and to stimulate their interest in vocational subjects, such as to give them equal opportunities to choose their future careers. And there's a whole list of reasons. So I'm going to show you some more subjects that they might be interested in. Floral design, painting classes, pottery classes, quilting, sewing, stained glass. So you'll see, because you might need ideas, and this one lists metalworking, woodworking, furniture making, upholstery, clothing, dressmaking, home arts, home crafts, sewing, embroidering, hairdressing. So there are things that you can get these hairdressing things, like heads with the long hair. You can buy them to teach them hairdressing if you want to even. There's so many different things. Wood shops. Remember wood shop? Water bath canning. Even if you do the part that's, of course, you're going to do the part that's dangerous, so you're going to be really careful. But maybe you want to teach them how to make jam or jelly or do water bath canning. You just have to be careful. You have to be smart. Birdhouses, making birdhouses. They have those Home Depot and Lowe's little crafts, or they used to. I don't know if they still do. Once a month where you could go in there with your children and learn how to do these things. Here's another list of crafts. And I think even Jones and Michaels has online classes once a month where you can teach your students different things. So you might be interested in that. You might be doing like 1 day or 1 afternoon a week teaching them these things. Cooking, maybe even just simple stuff like making French toast or scrambled eggs. Remember, they used to have cooking in school. Now, you don't want to put them in danger. I mean, you have to be careful. You have to be smart. Hopefully, you're smart, but you have to go by their age appropriate and things like that. So But as you know, you're teaching them different, even if they're watching you. You know, you don't be stupid. Sometimes I feel like some people don't have common sense, but some people do. So, you know, you have to use common sense with children always. But here's some things. Quilting, baking, cake decorating, cooking, crocheting, drawing, embroidering, fitness, gardening, home decor, jewelry making, knitting, painting, paper, crafting, photography, quilting, sewing, woodworking, writing, yoga. There's so many different things that you might want to teach your students. And I'm going to scroll through this one. Handmade greeting cards for the holidays. There's just different things. Painting trees in watercolor. There's different things that you can do. I mean, you can Google crafts for such and such age, but there's so many different things that we took in school. We took Leathercrafts and learned how to make wallets. We learned how to use a sewing machine at school, and we made stuffed animals. And then there was the painting crafts that she did that were not for like little kids. We were in junior high. We learned so much. We even took French, I think, in the younger grades. So I wasn't any good at that one, but you know, I took it for a minute. There's so many different things that you can teach your students. Rock painting, you know, macrame, quilts. Especially at this time when I'm doing this video, Christmas is coming. So, you know, you might be interested in these things. And you can pause the video to see what I scrolled through, but there's so many different projects that we used to have 4-H classes that you could teach your students, and I'm sure they still have them online. Sewing. Remember when we used to learn how to use a sewing machine in school? And I don't know where you could teach them these classes or if you even have a sewing machine. I don't know if you need to join like a 4-H type or a homeschool support group to find classes like this, or if they have local classes like this. But it's just, you know, you have to be careful and you have to be age appropriate. So, but I was trying to look for things that you might want to teach your students at home that we used to learn at school that they don't teach them anymore. And I can't remember all the classes because there were so many and I didn't take them all. I love this one where they did it with a book. But there were so many and I don't know what you have available or what you can afford to spend. But there's so many different things because when they learn how to do these different crafts, sometimes they learn how to get stuff at the thrift store for cheap and make gifts out of them because they come up with these ideas that maybe they didn't have before. So, and this one goes over a range of things that you might be interested in teaching your students. But there's so many. I just can't remember them all. We learned all these, our art and crafts were they were so wonderful. I had some of the best teachers, doll making. We used to make things out of popsicle sticks. I learned crafts at church, our 4-H, or I mean our vocational Bible school. It was a lot longer than it is now. I think it was 2 weeks and it was like all day. But we would learn all these arts and crafts at church. We learned them at school. We had we used to get bused to a special school on Wednesday to learn crafts. And then another school that I had before that taught us all these different crafts and things that you don't learn at school anymore. But if you're homeschooling, you can teach your students different things. I mean, you can buy a keyboard. I've got a keyboard. I paid $40 for it, used. You could buy a keyboard and get the sheet music or whatever on the internet to teach them how to play a keyboard. It's just so many different things you can teach your students because they have the regular subjects, but you can teach them cooking and sewing and jewelry making and woodworking with the Home Depot kits. I don't know about the soap making, but you can do like do-it-yourself laundry detergent. You just have to be careful and make sure you don't do dangerous chemicals and things like that. Leathercrafts, knitting, crocheting, macrame, photography. They used to have writing workshops, calligraphy, handwriting analysis, pottery, music. You can teach them about small businesses, ceramics, bookbinding, furniture repair, um, making a spice shelf, about stained glass, kaleidoscopes, broom making, basket weaving, just so many different things that you can teach them about. We learned about first aid. We learned about debating and public speaking. We learned about wind energy. We learned to understand and recognize different tools. We took dance classes and we learned how to do folk dancing and you could teach them about line dancing. You could go over different foreign languages and give them like a first lesson in different foreign languages and see which one they like. I used to make board games for Sunday school, and you could have your students learn how to create their own board games. Quilting, we've done quilting. You can teach them about planning the menu depending on their ages and how to grocery shop for the things on the menu and how to freeze the stuff so that you create a menu that you can put the stuff in like TV dinner containers, those little tinfoil ones. Like you cook it and you put it in there and you freeze it so that you have TV dinners and things like that. You can teach them all sorts of things. So if you're looking for electives or other things to teach your students, there's just so much out there. And like I said, Michael's has online classes, I think, once a month. Joann's has online classes. And I don't know if Home Depot and Lowe's still has the classes that they used to have, but they used to have classes once a month that they had. And there's bookbinding where you learn how to do bookbinding. And it's just fun. There's so much. I remember we used to do those art classes where you put the black over it and you put it over with the different colors underneath and then the black over it and you put it on another paper and you draw over the top of the back of the page so that it goes on the other paper. And I remember how we used to learn how to paint little simple trees and draw trees and stuff. It was just, there's so much you can learn. And some of it you might find on YouTube videos for different types of skills that maybe you remember learning in school. Making little stamps or even sponge painting. We learned how to do painting with sponges and cutting out different designs to do it. There's just so much. I remember I made my own shirt and I made me a pair of shorts with a sewing machine. And I remember making stuffed animals when I learned how to use a sewing machine. It was just, it was just, it was, it was nice to have these life skills to realize that if I had to be able to do something like that, that I could do it, that I could take an old pair of jeans and I could hand sew it into a blue jean purse, and I could take material and sew it into where it would make like a jewelry little purse carrier and things like that. We learned so many different skills, and I don't know if they have those skills or if you remember those skills or if you're aware of these skills, but if you're needing these type of skills to teach your students and you're looking for something like this for homeschooling, because kids learn so fast when they're being homeschooled. If you're I was in the 5th grade, and one of my schools I went to, they gave us workbooks and they let us work at our own level. So then when I switched schools, I was sitting there in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, just bored, listening to the teacher talk. But I had already learned all of that. So then there was nothing for me to do in math for 3 years because I got to learn at my own pace. And I know when you go to school, a lot of times it's not so much about the education anymore. It's more about students spending time with other students and learning other things, like I have no idea what, like taking turns and things like that, I guess, because we're not learning at our own pace. We're in a room full of other students listening to the teacher talk, and how many students are at that level. And then you go to school and you have home period. Then you go from class to class, and it takes you 5-10 minutes to get to the next class. Then you got to sit there 5 or 10 minutes waiting. And then at the end of the class, when everything's done, you can try to work on your homework a little bit. If you have homework and you've got 5 or 10 minutes to spend talking to your friends before you leave to go to the next class. And then you might have recess, and you might have, lunch might take a while. It's just not the same as it used to be. I think at one time I thought the teachers used to get to choose the curriculum that they were working on, and then they didn't. But I could be wrong. I sometimes I remember stuff and it's not quite right. But when you're homeschooling, it just seems like you're looking for something new and something fun. You want your students to learn how to do things hands-on so that they can be able to gain those skills and that knowledge that they get from doing hands-on projects. And I just feel like maybe you're looking for something more for your students to learn. And if you are, I hope that I hope this video helps someone. I just thought I would go online and try to search for some other, and now I'm rambling like some people do when they do the videos, and I don't want to ramble and talk too much. So anyway, I hope this video helps somebody, and I appreciate you watching my channel. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.